All right, we are now live. We are now live on Facebook. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hassan. Very quickly, before I begin the session with our guest, I'm going to very quickly introduce the company that I represent. I represent the marketing department of the Knowledge School Network, which is a nationwide chain of K-12 schools in Pakistan. And it is our vision and mission are governed by philanthropy over anything else. We want to ensure the spread of education to all corners of the country. Our guest today is Hisham Wyne. He is a marketing professional from Dubai. He is the managing director of his own company, HWM. We are very pleased to have him, and hopefully he'll be sharing a lot of helpful strategies with us on how to connect with our customer base and our audience. Having said that, can you give us an introduction of yourself, Hisham, and explain exactly what it is that you do, like what your history in marketing has been?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, to TKS and to you, Hassan, for inviting me onto this Facebook Live session. I'm hoping it'll be of some value to people who are joining us. And of course, you'll be sharing this far and wide later as well. So as Hassan has pointed out, I am the managing director of HWM. Now, HWM is a boutique communications consultancy. And by that, what we mean is that we help brands communicate effectively, both across traditional spaces and across digital spaces. Now, a lot of integrated marketing companies do that, but really where we specialize is that we're not a jack of all trades. We're quite specialized in taking on messaging. There's a little bit of an echo.
No, sorry, that was me. Please continue.
All right, excellent. So the basic idea is that if your brand operates in a complex environment, in a complex industry, in a technical industry, say for example healthcare, say for example education, as a lot of our, in fact, all of our audience are in IT, in fintech, and you need help with your messaging in terms of what to say, whom to say it to, that's where. And part of our proposition is that we also extend this offering in terms of expressing it either in, say for instance, content consultation and copywriting, but also running a very powerful, individualized media training sessions for leaders and for C-level executives to help them bring these messages out in interview situations on TV, on radio, wherever they are.
Excellent. So you mentioned this very briefly about how you touched on the service industry, you mentioned insurance, and you mentioned education. Now, the service industry, it's the way it functions tends to be very different from a product industry. So when it comes to marketing and brand communication in a service setting, how does a company or an organization go about doing that?
I mean, look, that's such a very good point, because on the first hand, yes, you're absolutely right. Products and services are very different. But I'm going to be slightly controversial and make a distinction. Products and services are very different in terms of how they're manufactured, how they're delivered. They're very different in terms of the expertise that you need. For example, on the product side, logistics is a key issue, just-in-time is a key issue, the supply chain is a key issue. On the service side, it's the innovation, the knowledge, etc., that sets you apart. So completely different. But can I say, from a communication point of view, the framework that you would use in a service industry to get your message across is not that different from the framework that you would use in a product industry. Let me explain. What is the purpose of communication? The purpose of communication is to build a brand, get your message out. Okay, whether you build a brand or not, that is good practice, but getting your message out to your target audiences. So whether you're a product or you're a service, or you're some sort of hybrid between the two, like a lot of, say, people in education are, a lot of people in IT are. When it comes to messaging, it all starts with understanding who your target audience is, what your product and service is, most importantly, how your product and service is going to now add value to your target audience, right? So whether it's a product or a service, when we help brands communicate, when we write stuff for them, when we structure their messaging, we always start with, well, let's see who your target audience is.
And what exactly gap in their life are you filling with your product or your service?
So there's two ways, yes, and that's a very, very good point. There's two rough frameworks that you can use. I mean, these aren't prescriptive, they're not set in stone, but there's two ways that consultants approach this and audiences approach this. One of them is that you can create attention and desire for your product. So specifically, if you're a product like shoes, etc., a lot of it is aspirational marketing. That, you know, buy this, you'll be better or cooler. Like a lot of fashion brands do this, etc. All the LVMH brands or all your high street fashion brands, they tend to do this. They create attention and desire for their product. Or, as you said, you address a pain point. So there's a particular strategy that some brands use where they identify the pain points. And when we say pain points, it's like the gaps, as you said, Hashim, in terms of what is, I suppose, not missing from people's lives, but where you can add value, where you can assist them, where there's a need. So where people have some sort of a need, and then your brand comes in and says, and here, so there's a need, you explore the need, you highlight the need, you really titillate the need, you shake it up so that people know that, yes, there is this need. And then you make the case for how your service or product helps
fulfills that need.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in your experience, and you've had a lot of experience, what are the key things, and I mean key things, like main things that can help an organization communicate with an audience better, reach out to a community better, and just generally just engage with them on a more deeper level?
You know, that's such an interesting question. And I think that is really the essence of what so many brands want to do in today's world. Things are becoming more difficult for brands because on the one hand, you have a tremendous number of channels, but on the other, there's very variety of channels. And the fact that your response times are now measured in minutes as opposed to days is creating challenges for brands. But to link this with the previous question as well, whether you're a service or a product, in this case, all of you are services, the frameworks are somewhat the same. First off, if you want to build connection with your community, understand your community. Understand your target audience. Who are these people that you're trying to reach? Is there a particular demographic, for example? So answer the three important W's. Who are they? Where are they? Why do I want to reach them? Why are they part of my community? Now, communities are slightly broader than just potential buyers or potential students or potential investors. A community can be larger. So it all starts with the definition of, right, who are we trying to reach? Why? Once we have that information, we can then start thinking about messages for these particular communities to make the brand relevant. And so the basic framework of common sense in terms of communication is essentially this. Who are these people? How can I make a spiel, not a spiel, how can I enhance my brand in a way that serves them? And why should they be interested?
Got it. Well, so when it, sorry, just give me 1 second.
No worries at all. I'll take that 1 second and tell you that one of the, I wouldn't say mistakes, but one of the things that I've seen a lot of brands do, particularly brands in more, say, service industries, more sometimes B2B, is that, in fact, even schools, I've seen this with schools a lot. I've seen it in schools in Pakistan and the rest of Southeast Asia, etc. A lot of us sometimes start the conversation with me. Look at our campus, look at this, look at that. And yes, I understand why people would want to do that because it builds a certain sense of aspiration. And, you know, education is quite emotional. So it builds that sense of validation as well. But in order to create engagement with the community, we also have to talk about them. We see you, you are seen, you are heard. We understand what drives you. So very often it's a good idea to switch things around as well. That doesn't mean don't talk about yourself, but talk about the community first. If you're trying to attract students, for example, Maybe it's worth understanding what it is that they want from you. And so talk about what they need before you talk about how you can help.
And that's a very good point that you make, because there are indeed a lot of employers and a lot of business owners who do make this mistake about promptly stepping into an arena, stepping into a ring, making proclamations about what they can do for customers without thinking about what the customers actually want from them. So it's a very interesting point. Considering this, the climate that not just Pakistan, but also the Middle East and the rest of the world, considering the climate that everyone is currently operating in with the pandemic and the ensuing lockdowns, how do business organizations communicate with an audience, their customer base, or their community in a situation like this? Like how has it changed? How has the paradigm of marketing shifted over this past year? For you personally, if you would like to, share.
Really, Hassan, that is the $1,000,000 question, because in such environments, everybody struggles, right? And brands struggle a whole lot because they don't know what tone to take. Very often, and they're defeated by how fast moving these things are, right? For example, and very often the things that are happening are not advantageous for the brand. So if you're an airline, for example, operating within the pandemic, your profit motive or your revenue motive really wants you to advocate for the airports opening up and for global tourism flows to reconnect and resume. But then you have to sort of read the room. And when I say read the room, brands need to be very careful in their advocacy and in their communication that they don't put a foot wrong where they start losing trust. There are certain people now have long memories of how brands behave. One of the benefits for brands, the challenges of an engaged audience through social channels, etc., is that brands are being seen more and more as entities that should be conscientious, that should in some way, shape, or form be good, do well, do good for the community. And if they're not doing good, at least don't be careless and don't be selfish, don't be evil. It leaves a mark. A lot of people, a lot of brands have had this issue as to how are you going to communicate during a pandemic. It's a conversation that's happening every day, but I can tell you this. Let's do a checklist, because we could talk about this all day. First off, health, finances, etc. There are 2 or 3 things, and even education. These things are quite emotive for people. So the decisions that we make when it comes to money, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to education for our children and for ourselves, etc., these are all emotive decisions. They're not taken with a purely rational mind, right? So in these industries, in all industries, but specifically these industries, people are expecting brands to behave responsibly, right? So that's a key thing. Behave responsibly. Now, there's a lot of, obviously, you're not in control of the situation, and I'm not expecting brands to say, well, they can control the situation, but it is important, A, to stay ahead of it. Look, regulations change, you have to respond. Say, for example, in Pakistan, we know for a fact that there have been many lockdowns, there's been attempts at learning from home. Sometimes even schools haven't been given the opportunity to prepare because the lockdown announcement comes in quite fairly. And that is fine. And everybody understands that. But then, in the interest of behaving responsibly and in the interest of behaving fairly, it is then the institution's job to communicate that with their students, with their community, with their stakeholders. And there is one of the interesting things that we've seen during this pandemic is the issue of, in a way, fairness has come to the fore. I'll give you an example. In the UK, the US, and Canada, in 2020, there was a lot of backlash from international students who had admitted themselves to big schools, or maybe not even very big schools, but who were going abroad from Pakistan, from India, from very many other parts of the world to study. And all these universities were forced to move online, right? Look, these students, keep in mind, are coming from emerging markets and they're paying in pounds and dollars. They're doing it for the overall experience.
Absolutely.
These universities did not, or maybe could not, offer any sort of a discount. They, as far as I'm aware, were very slow in offering ways to compensate students for the fact that suddenly you're now doing your learning online. Because quite frankly, online learning is brilliant. And I think that in a lot of ways, blended with the physical world, with face-to-face learning, it's going to result in some very powerful hybrid models. I agree with that. But if you're going to Harvard, if you're going to the London School of Economics, which is my old school, if you're going to Yale, in fact, maybe even if you're coming here to take your TKS and their schools and their universities and their educational institutes, you're not just coming in for virtual learning. There's that entire value add in terms of the people that you meet, in terms of the opportunities that are given to you, in terms of the support structure, in terms of the core curricular stuff, the extracurricular stuff. So some universities failed international students in 2020, and by doing so, they failed their own brand. So now people are having a massive think about whether it's worth paying those high fees in order, but still get something that is maybe 20% of what had been paid for. So this idea of fairness is important, particularly for educational institutes. Now, of course, just because the government said we're heading into a lockdown, doesn't mean that, you know, so a lot of institutions are not in a position to waive fees or give discounts because they're hurting as much as anybody else. But
Absolutely.
this is a conversation that needs to be had. How can we, in these difficult circumstances that we find ourselves, how can we make the conversation about making things better for students? Right? Is there a way? Can we throw in some extra activities? Can we move some co-curricular stuff online as well? Maybe some extracurricular stuff online. Like, you know, maybe there are hobby groups, or maybe there are clubs, like, you know, chess clubs or whatever in the university. Can those be moved online as well? How can we, as an education provider, say to our students that we understand that this is frustrating and this is not ideal, but we are going to try and enrich the service offering as much as we can in the interest of fairness. So I'm seeing fairness, responsible behavior, and transparency really emerge as key things. And what has happened because of the pandemic is that people have had a lot of time at home. A lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people have struggled with either mental health issues. Let's just say it's been a difficult time for the entire world. And I promise you that if your brand has been opportunistic, has been careless, has taken its audience for granted, because people just have had more time to think and to engage and to see your behavior and your communication, they're going to remember. So,
and it's going to harm those organizations later on.
So, fair, rapid communication, transparency. I would say that would be where we want to
go. So basically, brands need to have a certain level of altruism towards their communities. They need to realize that they're not just a business selling a service or a product. They are an entity within a community which is thriving and bustling, and that they have a certain degree of social responsibility to the people in that community and towards their own consumer base.
What are the disservices that there's this American economist in the 70s, I forget his name, who came up with the idea of the profit imperative, that a company's main responsibility is to its shareholders. And really, that is what the American system and the system of modern organizations has been built along in very many years. Like, I remember I was interviewing the Intel CEO for the region, for the Middle East region, and they were doing, at that point, this is years ago, they were doing a one laptop per child scheme. And I asked him, but you're a profit-making company, how does OLPC fit into this? And he immediately laughed and said, that's an excellent question. But of course, it's a question that he trained for, because he came back and said, we're not just helping the community. We're creating a new generation of Intel customers. Now, there's two things, there's two takeaways here. A, looking after your community, looking after your stakeholders is in the long run good for your business bottom line, and it's good for the brand. Short-term opportunism might work for a quarter, it might work for a few years, but it tarnishes your brand. That's number one. On a more philosophical note, because Intel is a listed company and listed companies have to have a certain responsibility to their shareholders, etc. Many years ago, the Intel CEO gave me this answer, but honestly, it's a cynical answer because the new paradigm that is now coming in, the new movement that is coming in, is that organizations need to think about more than just the shareholders, who are very often, if you're a listed company, they're not in the same country, they're not in the same room. They're just people who've bought shares. That you have an obligation to your communities, to the environment, to your surroundings. And there are organizations that are understanding this, that are addressing this. And I think we are going to see a change in that paradigm. So it's not just about shareholders. So the reason I brought this up was you used the term altruism. Absolutely. I think on the one hand, it's not particularly altruistic, because doing what you should be doing is not altruistic. It is the lowest common denominator of expectation. As a brand, this is what you should be doing. You should be helping not helping, but you should be supporting your communities, because part of those communities are customers. So yes, it's good for the bottom line, but also if you function in a community, that community, those stakeholders are part of the people that you have a responsibility towards.
Absolutely. So if you come down to it,
sorry, I've lost you there for a second. Oh, by the way, Sana has joined us from the Knowledge School in Bhagawal campus. So thank you for that, Sana. I'm just seeing that.
Sorry, I was just to wind up the session, because it's been I think we've definitely gone over our time limit. Am I still breaking up?
No, you're fine.
No, thank you. Can you just sum up once again what exactly it is that business organizations, service providers, people all over running a business, what they should focus on, keeping in mind the pandemic, keeping in mind the lockdowns? What exactly is it they should focus on to enhance their image in the eyes of their communities, and to just engage with their audience better?
Yeah. The short answer again is that we understand that in a pandemic, there's a lot of things that are outside of your control. So sometimes you have to be the bearer of bad news, because it's a global issue. It's not even just a local one. The only way to make sure that you come out of this with your reputation and your brand held high is to be responsible in your communications and your actions, is to be empathetic, is to crucially be transparent. So if a lockdown is around the corner, or if you're going to take a hard decision, please make sure that everybody, including your students, including your stakeholders, are on board, because bad news gets multiplied if it's also last minute. And furthermore, please keep in mind that these values of responsibility, transparency, rapid communication, and empathy, this is not altruism. This is not charity. This is what your audiences expect from you. And if you don't uphold these standards, they will remember. The new generation expects more from its brands than, say, our parents did. Much more. And if you are on social media, you will see that brands that don't live up to those expectations. In Pakistan, I've seen so many that when a brand does something a bit careless or wrong, people remember.
All right. And on that note, I think we'll wrap up the live session here. Thank you so much once again, Hisham, for joining us, taking the time out of your busy schedule to share your thoughts on marketing in this climate with us. We're very glad to have you. Guys, thank you for watching. And I'm just going to wind this up by asking you to please visit our Facebook page, like and subscribe, and share our page with your friends and your family. And with that, have a good day.